How to have a better relationship. For more details, click on the link below the video. Can you spot a good relationship? Of course, nobody knows what really goes on between any couple, but decades of scientific research into love, sex and relationships have taught us that a number of behaviors can predict when a couple is on solid ground or headed for troubled waters. Good relationships don't happen overnight. They take commitment, compromise, forgiveness and most of all, effort. Keep reading for the latest in relationship science, fun quizzes and helpful tips to help you build a stronger bond with your partner. Love and romance. Falling in love is the easy part. The challenge for couples is how to rekindle the fires of romance from time to time and cultivate the mature, trusting love that is the hallmark of a lasting relationship. What's your love style? When you say, "I love you," what do you mean? Terry Hatkoff, a California State University sociologist, has created a love scale that identifies 6 distinct types of love found in our closest relationships. Romantic, based on passion and sexual attraction. Best friends, fondness and deep affection. Logical, practical feelings based on shared values, financial goals, religion etc. Playful, feelings evoked by flirtation or feeling challenged. Possessive, jealousy and obsession. Unselfish, nurturing, kindness, and sacrifice. Researchers have found that the love we feel in our most committed relationships is typically a combination of 2 or 3 different forms of love. But often, 2 people in the same relationship can have very different versions of how they define love. Dr. Hatkoff gives the example of a man and woman having dinner. The waiter flirts with the woman, but the husband doesn't seem to notice, and talks about changing the oil in her car. The wife is upset her husband isn't jealous. The husband feels his extra work isn't appreciated. What does this have to do with love? The man and woman each define love differently. For him, love is practical, and is best shown by supportive gestures like car maintenance. For her, love is possessive, and a jealous response by her husband makes her feel valued. Understanding what makes your partner feel loved can help you navigate conflict and put romance back into your relationship. You and your partner can take the love style quiz from Dr. Hatkoff and find out how each of you defines love. If you learn your partner tends toward jealousy, make sure you notice when someone is flirting with him or her. If your partner is practical in love, notice the many small ways he or she shows love by taking care of everyday needs. Reignite romance. Romantic love has been called a natural addiction because it activates the brain's reward center, notably the dopamine pathways associated with drug addiction, alcohol and gambling. But those same pathways are also associated with novelty, energy, focus, learning, motivation, ecstasy and craving. No wonder we feel so energized and motivated when we fall in love. But we all know that romantic, passionate love fades a bit over time, and, we hope, matures into a more contented form of committed love. Even so, many couples long to rekindle the sparks of early courtship. But is it possible? The relationship researcher Arthur Aron, a psychology professor who directs the Interpersonal Relationships Laboratory at the State University of New York at Stony Brook, has found a way. The secret? Do something new and different, and make sure you do it together. New experiences activate the brain's reward system, flooding it with dopamine and norepinephrine. These are the same brain circuits that are ignited in early romantic love. Whether you take a pottery class or go on a whitewater rafting trip, activating your dopamine systems while you are together can help bring back the excitement you felt on your first date. In studies of couples, Dr. Aron has found that partners who regularly share new experiences report greater boosts in marital happiness than those who simply share pleasant but familiar experiences. Diagnose your passion level. The psychology professor Elaine Hatfield has suggested that the love we feel early in a relationship is different than what we feel later. Early on, love is passionate, meaning we have feelings of intense longing for our mate. Longer-term relationships develop companionate love, which can be described as a deep affection, and strong feelings of commitment and intimacy. Where does your relationship land on the spectrum of love? The Passionate Love Scale, developed by Dr. Hatfield, of the University of Hawaii, and Susan Sprecher, a psychology and sociology professor at Illinois State University, can help you gauge the passion level of your relationship. Once you see where you stand, you can start working on injecting more passion into your partnership. Note that while the scale is widely used by relationship researchers who study love, the quiz is by no means the final word on the health of your relationship. Take it for fun and let the questions inspire you to talk to your partner about passion. After all, you never know where the conversation might lead. Sex for most couples, the more sex they have, the happier the relationship. How much sex are you having? Let's start with the good news. Committed couples really do have more sex than everyone else. Don't believe it? While it's true that single people can regale you with stories of crazy sexual episodes, remember that single people also go through long dry spells. A March 2017 report found that 15% of men and 27% of women reported they hadn't had sex in the past year. And 9% of men and 18% of women say they haven't had sex in 5 years. The main factors associated with a sexless life are older age and not being married. So whether you're having committed or married sex once a week, once a month, or just 6 times a year, the fact is that there's still someone out there having less sex than you. And if you're one of those people not having sex, this will cheer you up. Americans who are not having sex are just as happy as their sexually active counterparts. But who's counting? Even though most people keep their sex lives private, we do know quite a bit about people's sex habits. The data come from a variety of sources, including the General Social Survey, which collects information on behavior in the United States, and the International Social Survey Program, a similar study that collects international data, and additional studies from people who study sex like the famous Kinsey Institute. A recent trend is that sexual frequency is declining among millennials, likely because they are less likely than earlier generations to have steady partners. Based on that research, here's some of what we know about sex. The average adult has sex 54 times a year. The average sexual encounter lasts about 30 minutes. About 5% of people have sex at least 3 times a week. People in their 20s have sex more than 80 times per year. People in their 40s have sex about 60 times a year. Sex drops to 20 times per year by age 65. After the age of 25, sexual frequency declines 3.2% annually. After controlling for age and time period, those born in the 1930s had sex the most often. People born in the 1990s, millennials, had sex the least often. About 20% of people, most of them widows, have been celibate for at least a year. The typical married person has sex an average of 51 times a year. Very happy couples have sex, on average, 74 times a year. Married people under 30 have sex about 112 times a year. Single people under 30 have sex about 69 times a year. Married people in their 40s have sex 69 times a year. Single people in their 40s have sex 50 times a year. Active people have more sex. People who drink alcohol have 20% more sex than teetotalers. On average, extra education is associated with about a week's worth of less sex each year. Early and often one of the best ways to make sure your sex life stays robust in a long relationship is to have a lot of sex early in the relationship. A University of Georgia study of more than 90,000 women in 19 countries in Asia, Africa and the Americas found that the longer a couple is married, the less often they have sex, but that the decline appears to be relative to how much sex they were having when they first coupled. Here's a look at frequency of married sex comparing the first year of marriage with the 10th year of marriage. Why does sex decline in marriage? It's a combination of factors. Sometimes it's a health issue, the presence of children, boredom or unhappiness in the relationship. But a major factor is age. One study found sexual frequency declines 3.2% a year after the age of 25. The good news is that what married couples lack in quantity they make up for in quality. Data from the National Health and Social Life Survey found that married couples have more fulfilling sex than single people. The no-sex marriage. Why do some couples sizzle while others fizzle? Social scientists are studying no-sex marriages for clues about what can go wrong in relationships. It's estimated that about 15% of married couples have not had sex with their spouse in the last 6 months to 1 year. Some sexless marriages started out with very little sex. Others in sexless marriages say childbirth or an affair led to a slowing and eventually stopping of sex. People in sexless marriages are generally less happy and more likely to have considered divorce than those who have regular sex with their spouse or committed partner. If you have a low sex or no sex marriage, the most important step is to see a doctor. A low sex drive can be the result of medical issues, low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, menopause or depression, or it can be a side effect of a medication or treatment. Some scientists speculate that growing use of antidepressants like Prozac and Paxil, which can depress the sex drive, may be contributing to an increase in sexless marriages. While some couples in sexless marriages are happy, the reality is that the more sex a couple has, the happier they are together. It's not easy to rekindle a marriage that has gone without sex for years, but it can be done. If you can't live in a sexless marriage but you want to stay married, see a doctor, see a therapist and start talking to your partner. Here are some of the steps therapists recommend to get a sexless marriage back in the bedroom. Talk to each other about your desires. Have fun together and share new experiences to remind yourself how you fell in love. Hold hands. Touch. Hug. Have sex even if you don't want to. Many couples discover that if they force themselves to have sex, soon it doesn't become work and they remember that they like sex. The body responds with a flood of brain chemicals and other changes that can help. Remember that there is no set point for the right amount of sex in a marriage. The right amount of sex is the amount that makes both partners happy. For more details, click on the link below the video. A prescription for a better sex life. If your sex life has waned, it can take time and effort to get it back on track. The best solution is relatively simple, but oh so difficult for many couples: start talking about sex. Just do it, have sex, even if you're not in the mood. Sex triggers hormonal and chemical responses in the body, and even if you're not in the mood, chances are you will get there quickly once you start. Make time for sex. Busy partners often say they are too busy for sex, but interestingly, really busy people seem to find time to have affairs. The fact is, sex is good for your relationship. Make it a priority. Talk, ask your partner what he or she wants. Surprisingly, this seems to be the biggest challenge couples face when it comes to rebooting their sex lives. The first two suggestions are self-explanatory, but let's take some time to explore the third step: talking to your partner about sex. Dr. Hatfield of the University of Hawaii is one of the pioneers of relationship science. She developed the passionate love scale we explored earlier in this guide. When Dr. Hatfield conducted a series of interviews with men and women about their sexual desires, she discovered that men and women have much more in common than they realize. They just tend not to talk about sex with each other. Here's a simple exercise based on Dr. Hatfield's research that could have a huge impact on your sex life. Find 2 pieces of paper and 2 pens. Now, sit down with your partner so that each of you can write down 5 things you want more of during sex with your partner. The answers shouldn't be detailed sex acts, although that's fine if it's important to you. Ideally, your answers should focus on behaviors you desire, being talkative, romantic, tender, experimental or adventurous. If you are like the couples in Dr. Hatfield's research, you may discover that you have far more in common in terms of sexual desires than you realize. Here are the answers Dr. Hatfield's couples gave. Let's look at what couples had in common. Both partners wanted seduction, instructions and experimentation. The main difference for men and women is where sexual desire begins. Men wanted their wives to initiate sex more often and be less inhibited in the bedroom. But for women, behavior outside the bedroom also mattered. They wanted their partner to be warmer, helpful in their lives, and they wanted love and compliments both in and out of the bedroom. Please subscribe to the channel to receive the latest videos.